no matter how advanced AI becomes, fundamentally, it lacks the essence of human consciousness. And we give a definition to what human consciousness is. And obviously, definitions aren't the thing itself, but we can capture, I think, what consciousness is in a not necessarily purely functional way. And what I think it's characterized by a few things. So self-awareness, intentionality, and the ability to reflect on our own experiences and existence. AI, on the other hand, operates on programmed algorithms and data processing. It doesn't matter how complex a system is. Doesn't matter if it's using machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, hybridization. Fundamentally, you could break it down to binary code. So while it could simulate certain aspects of human behavior, I think that it lacks the genuine understanding and the experiential depth that comes and that defines being human. So, for instances, when a human experiences joy or sorrow, it's not just a set of responses to external stimuli. It's not something so simple as that, right?
Right.
It's tied to a deep subjective sense of self and an ongoing narrative of personal identity across space and time. So
Sure.
AI can definitely mimic these reactions, but without any real understanding or subjective experience. So, for example, you probably heard of the AI Sophia, right? Which was in the newspapers because the robot was given personhood or citizenship in Saudi Arabia, right? It was made by Hanson Robotics. Sophia can exhibit expressions that might seem human-like, but her responses are pre-programmed, or even if it's using something like unsupervised learning, right? She still lacks that she fall into the kind of the anthropomorphization. The
Sure.
robot lacks the
Yeah.
self-awareness, the personal history that makes human emotions, right? That ability to look within oneself, that interiority meaningful. Sophia doesn't know what it's like to genuinely feel joy or pain, which are integral, not only um, not only epiphenomenological of human conscious, right?
Right.
It's
It's not
integral.
accidental property.
It's
Yeah.
not accidental, right? It's not just some sort of accidental phenotype. It's integral to what human consciousness is, right? So people, when they talk about this, they bring up things like the Turing test, right? Its limitations. People, ChatGPT already passed the Turing test, right? So for people who don't know what that is, for your listeners who don't know what the Turing test is, uh, Alan Turing proposed, and he suggested that if a machine can engage in a conversation indistinguishably from a human being, it could be considered intelligent, human like human, right? However, the test only measures a machine's ability to mimic human
Yeah.
behavior,
Sure.
not to experience or to understand. True human intelligence is not only about responding correctly, right? We can all memorize even answers, right? Or respond as if we knew what the hell we're talking about, right? I do it all the time. I pretend like I know what I'm talking about. I don't know. I have no genuine understanding, right? Um, Real, genuine human intelligence involves insight, spontaneous understanding, right, of the creation of models in one's mind, the eureka of Archimedes when he understood buoyancy, right, how to measure volume, creativity, a personal sense of identity. AI can definitely simulate conversational skills. We know that anyone who uses ChatGPT knows that AI can simulate very well conversational skills, but it doesn't have that experience that informs human understanding. ChatGPT can generate text that seems coherent, contextually appropriate, but it lacks that any real, not just some, any real comprehension of its content. It doesn't know
Sure.
what it's talking about, right? It's like a sophisticated parrot capable of repeating patterns, but without understanding the meaning or implications, right? A parrot has their stories convince people that it's actually a human when they don't see that it's actually a parrot because it can mimic so well what humans do, right? But it's not like it understands what it's saying, right? Its meaning, its implications. And that's a fundamental limitation of the Turing test. It can be passed by systems that have no real awareness or understanding, right? And that's because we also have the capability of what Bernard Lonergan, he's a Canadian philosopher, theologian, Jesuit theologian that I study, what he calls inverse insight. And inverse insight refers to recognizing what is not understood or identifying the limitations of a particular framework of understanding. So humans have the capacity to realize when their conceptual tools are inadequate and can question their assumptions underlying those tools.
Right. To know
And
what you
this
don't know.
capacity for
Right.
self-correction, for deeper questioning, is something that AI lacked because it can't go beyond its predefined parameters. The code is law, right?
Sure.
So take, for instance, the concept of irrational numbers in mathematics. So the Pythagoreans initially believed that all numbers were rational. It was only through the realization of contradictions within their own system that they grasped the concept of irrational numbers. And this ability to transcend existing frameworks, recognize their limitations, is a distinctive human capability that AI can't replicate. AI can process data, follow algorithms, but it doesn't have the capacity to see beyond the rules that govern its system, its very architecture. We can transcend by our very nature those limitations, right? They're not real limitations; they're apparent limitations. But to an AI system, they are real limitations, right? So I don't think that AI can ever possess true creativity, original thought, these things that are integral to human experience, right? Creativity involves more than just recombining existing elements in novel ways, which is things like what ChatGPT does, right? It requires an understanding of context, of purpose, intent, the ability to reflect on, transcend current paradigms. AI obviously can generate what we call novel outputs based on patterns and data, but it doesn't understand the significance or meaning of those outputs. True creativity is a product of human consciousness, that self-awareness that I mentioned, intentionality. It's fundamental to what it means to be human. So AI generated art is an excellent example. AI can produce images, music that may be aesthetically pleasing. Maybe we've never heard something exactly like it before, but it lacks that ability to imbue its creation with meaning, with intention. When a human artist paints a picture, they're not just combining colors and shapes, they're trying to convey emotions, experience, personal perspective. AI generated art lacks that depth of intentionality, of personal expression.